Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Mr. Heeren talking to you about Unit 2.1, talking about parallel lines, talking about what happens when two lines that are parallel get cut by what's called a transversal and kind of what happens when all that with the angles there. So here's what parallel lines are. Parallel lines are lines that will never touch. They are always equidistant apart, okay? Because quite obviously if they were ever not equidistant apart, that means that they would one day cross. So there are two coplanar lines, never touch, always the same distance apart. Oop. So that is what it means to be a parallel line. So they're coplanar, they never touch, they're always equidistant. Skew lines are non-coplanar. Skew lines are like this, okay? Skew lines, um, they're not going to touch, kind of like parallel lines. They're not going to touch, but they're not coplanar. All right? And they're not parallel. Okay, so if you look at this one, so if you look at line M and line R, okay, you'll notice they're never going to touch, but at the same time, they're never, even if I try to draw the plane that combined them, you couldn't even draw those parallel if you wanted to. Okay, so they're not going to touch, they're not coplanar, and they're not parallel. All right, so that's kind of the big difference with skew lines. Parallel planes are like exactly like parallel lines except on a bigger scale. Parallel planes are going to be two planes. Obviously, they're not coplanar like parallel lines are. Two planes that never touch. All right, and they're going to be always, once again, equidistant, as in, equal distance apart. A transversal. A transversal, most of the time you're going to see it's marked by the letter T. Transversal is exactly what it sounds like. It is a line that intersects two or more coplanar lines at two different points. All right? So T is transversal to S and V in this situation. So that is a transversal. Okay, interior angles. Interior angles that lie between the two lines. Go back. Get that out of there. Get out of there. Thank you. Where'd the picture go? Oh, picture went away, so we'll just sketch it quick. So this is line T, this is line S, this is line V. Line S and V are parallel. So if we count it, the interior angles are going to be 3, 4, 5, and 6. So those are the ones inside. The outside angles are going to be the lie outside the two lines, so 1, 2, 7, and 8. So interior, 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 interior. Notice they are inside the parallel lines. Exterior, 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 exterior. Notice they are outside the parallel lines. So when I say interior, exterior angles, that's what I'm talking about. So consecutive interior angles. So we know interior angles means that they are on the inside of the parallel lines. Okay, they are on the inside here. What does consecutive mean? Consecutive means this. They are on the same side of the transversal. So consecutive interior angles means these two and these two. Those two are consecutive interior angles. And kind of what you want to remember what those are is that those are going to be supplementary. Supplementary means that they add up to 180 degrees. So that's what I want you to remember for consecutive interior angles. All right, so if you have consecutive interior angles, you also have alternate interior angles. Alternate interior angles are on opposite sides of the transversal. All right, so you got same side interior or consecutive interior, then you have alternate interior angles. All right, so 3 and 5 and 4 and 6 would be considered alternate interior angles. And alternate interior angles are going to be congruent to each other. All right, so 3 would be congruent to 5, 4 would be congruent to 6. All right, alternate exterior angles. Same idea, except now instead on the inside, you are on the outside. So 2 and 8 would be considered alternate exterior angles. 1 and 7 would be considered alternate exterior angles, and those would also be congruent. All right, so 1 would be congruent to 7, 2 would be congruent to 8. All right, so a lot's going on here. There's a lot of relationships between all these angles when two parallel lines get crossed by a transversal. Okay, so recap. Vertical perpendicular lines meet to form a 90-degree angle. We knew that from before. Vertical angles are always going to be congruent. Or if you don't want to write it, draw the symbol. I'm okay with either ones. Remember, vertical angles, these guys and these guys. Those are vertical. So, two angles that form a linear pair are going to form a what? If you're a linear pair, what do you form? You form a line. So, which two angles form a linear pair? Do 1 and 2? Yes. Do 2 and 3? Yes. Do 3 and 4? Yes. Do 1 and 4? Yes. Remember, linear pair, two angles. They are adjacent and they form a line. That's all that means. So you've got two lines cut by a transversal and a parallel. To indicate the lines are parallel, extra arrows are often put on them. Using only your knowledge about vertical angles and linear pairs, fill in the measure for the other 6 angles in each sketch. So now we're going to apply what we talked about with vertical angles and linear pairs. Okay, so here, number 1, these indicate that those two lines are parallel. Okay, it's just an extra arrow to tell you that that's the case. So now use what you know about vertical angles. Well, if this one's 118, this one's 118. If this one's 62, this one's 62. That's just what I know from vertical angles. Now, what I also know is that two angles go together to make a line are a linear pair, and they add up to 180. So I know that much. So I know if this is 118, this is 62. This is also 62 because that's a vertical angle. Likewise, if this is 62, this has got to be 118. By vertical angles, that's got to be 118. So I'm hoping what you notice is that of all the angles that are created there, there's only 2 answers. All right, one of them, half of them are 62, the other half are 118. Likewise here. So just going by vertical angles and what I know, that's 97, that's 83. They are across from each other. So now, from what I know about linear pairs, is that if this is 97, this has got to be 83. So that means this has got to be 83. 83, this has got to be 97. That means this has got to be 97. So now take a moment and look kind of what all the situations are. And here's what I mean when I say that. Consecutive interior angles, those two. They're supplementary, aren't they? If I add them up, they give me a sum of 180. Alternate interior angles are congruent. 97, 97, 83, 83. Alternate exterior angles are also congruent. So two parallel lines are cut by a transversal. We're putting this into words now. Two parallel lines cut by a transversal. Alternate interior angles are going to be congruent. All right, so let's fill this in quick. That's 125, that's 125, that's 125, that's 125. By definition of linear pair, this is 125, this has got to be 55, which makes that one 55, this one 55, and this one 55. So two parallel lines cut by a transversal, the alternate exterior angles are also congruent. Two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then corresponding angles are angles in the same location, okay? So if this 55 and this 55 are corresponding. This 125 and this 125 are corresponding. This 125 and this 125 are corresponding. This 55 are corresponding. So looking there, what can I say about this one? Two parallel lines cut by a transversal, then corresponding angles are going to be congruent. And finally, two parallel lines cut by a transversal, then consecutive interiors are supplements. So, number one, what kind of angles are these? So what does x equal? Well, I'll take a look up above. You can use alternate interior angles or alternate exterior angles, corresponding or consecutive interior angles. Well, these two guys are both on the interior. They are not on opposite sides of the transversal. Okay, they're all on the same side. So that means they're going to be consecutive interior angles. They are consecutive interior angles. So if this is 51, consecutive interior angles are going to be supplementary. So that means that this has got to be 180 minus 51. So 180 minus 51 should be 129. So that should be 129 degrees. So number 6, that should be 94 degrees because of alternate exterior angles. And number 7, if this one is 105 and we're looking at this angle, what kind of angles are those? Well, they are alternate interior angles. So if it's alternate interior angles, so 2x plus 1 equals 105. So 2x equals 104. So x is going to equal 52. So taking a look, keep going. Number 8, they are corresponding. They are both below the line that is parallel and on the right side of the transversal. So they are going to be congruent to each other by corresponding angles. So if I add 6, that's 87. So that's going to be 29. Number 9, these two are going to be equal to each other because of alternate interior angles. So 8x minus 15 equals 5x plus 3. So now a little bit of algebra. So that's going to be 3x equals 18. So x equals 6. And finally, even though we're inside of a what looks like a parallelogram, I got two parallel lines here. Kind of think about this as this extending. So if I extend these out, these would be same side or consecutive interior angles. All right, and they're going to be supplementary. Whoa, they're supplementary, and they are consecutive interior angles. So 12x plus 4 plus 5x plus 6 equals 180. So 17x plus 10 equals 180. 17x equals 170. Subtract 10, subtract 10. That becomes 0. X is going to be equal to 10. So that's my answer. And that's all I got. Come talk to me with questions. Make sure you are very, very detailed about this and keep it all straight. And we'll see you in class. Have a good day.